NantG Mobile, the joint game development venture from NantWorks and San Diego based Daybreak Games, is handing development of Z1 Battle Royale back to Daybreak, a move that appears to have resulted in a number of layoffs at NantG. We have reached out to NantG for confirmation, but tweets picked up by massively over the weekend show that a number of developers that previously worked on the project left the company just recently, with at least one developer noting that their departure was the result of layoffs. Since those initial reports, NantG has shared a post to Z1 Battle Royale Steam page to announce that development of the game would be handed back to Daybreak Games, and that NantG Mobile would focus on its core mission of developing mobile games moving forward, and we have refocused our team toward this vision. If you are someone you know has been affected by these layoffs, you can mail Gamasutra to share your story confidentially. NantG Mobile itself has only been up and running since late last year, and is the result of a joint venture between H1Z1 and EverQuest Daybreak Game Company and NantWorks. At the time of its first announcement, the studio had plans to manage development of the PC version of Z1 Battle Royale, while also developing and publishing mobile versions of H1Z1 and EverQuest, according to NantG Mobile's recent post. Handing the PC version of Z1 Battle Royale makes it so both Z1B and H1Z1 will be under one publishing umbrella once again. However, it's unclear what portion, if any, of the development team that had been working on the game at NantG Mobile will make the jump as well. Daybreak Games itself has had a couple of rounds of layoffs in recent memory, including one that hit an estimated 70 people last December. Update: according to a former NantG Mobile developer affected by the layoffs, approximately 13 people lost their jobs as a result of the Z1 Battle Royale handoff, meaning roughly half the studio was let go this week. Those kids almost entirely affected developers who had been working on the Z1 Battle Royale project, many of whom were brought over from Daybreak less than a year ago to work on the game at NantG Mobile. This transition is particularly difficult as it almost entirely targeted the developers of H1Z1 Z1B, says an anonymous developer speaking to Gamasutra. And while it was not a surprise to any of the team that the product was likely at the end of its profitability, assurances had been made that our jobs were in no way tied to the success or failure of the project. According to that same developer, severance for those affected by the layoffs was based only on time spent at NantG Mobile, a studio that only opened up around 6 months ago, rather than combined time employed at Daybreak and NantG. This means that, in some cases, our people lost out on upwards of 18 years worth of seniority, says the former NantG dev. According to that developer, the bulk of the NantG team, outside of management and 4 others, was composed of developers that transitioned from Daybreak for the new NantG Mobile joint venture, the team working directly on Z1 Battle Royale, and thus those affected by this week's layoffs was mostly, if not entirely, made up of Daybreak staff that transitioned to NantG Mobile when the studio was set up. Today, over on the DD channel, System Era General Manager and company co-founder Brandon Wilson dropped by the stream to discuss the making of Astroneer now that the game's left early access on One. In case you have not checked in with Astroneer's development for a while, it's managed to accrue a large and loyal community that helped make its 1.0 launch a success. Wilson was able to explain why that community took some getting used to for a team of developers whose initial experience was being siloed away from players while working on the Halo franchise. You can now watch the full conversation with Wilson in the video above. Far more developer interviews and curated video talks. Be sure to follow the DD Twitch channel. Gamasutra editor Alex Worrell continues our annual series of year-end roundups by looking back at some of the big events that shook up the game industry in 2018. A lot of long-simmering game industry issues poured over in 2018, as we noted yesterday, while looking back at the trends that defined the game's business this year. Many longtime studios executed big layoffs, shut down entirely. Unionization in the game industry is a hot topic again. And in 2018, game workers unite coalesced and seemed to focus years of chatter into meaningful statements and action. After years of giving chase, French-made giant Vivendi finally gave up on trying to acquire Ubisoft and sold off its entire stake in the company to, among others, Ubisoft, Tencent, and the Ontario Teachers' Pension Plan. Iconoclasts finally came out. 2018 was a long one. Before we put it behind us, let's think about which bits we will still be talking about in the year ahead. Telltale Games was not the only studio to fall this year, but it was among the biggest and the most beloved. Despite clear signs of trouble, including reports of a toxic work environment, a big round of layoffs last year, and a legal fight with ousted Kyoka in Brunner, it was still a shock when Telltale initiated its majority studio closure in September, effectively laying off over 200 people with no warning and no severance. They were not alone, either. Telltale's sudden shuttering happened within days of Capcom Vancouver closing and Big Fish laying off over 100 people, meaning the game industry lost 2 big studios and over 500 jobs in the course of a week. In retrospect, this seems a particularly bad year for mass layoffs in the game industry. While Skybound Entertainment works to finish up Telltale's final Walking Dead game with at least some of the original developers, the once beloved studio's abrupt shutdown and failure to pay workers what they are owed, inspiring at least one class action lawsuit, drove many to ask, will TDLTDLASFAILURA be a catalyst for industry reform? This year, Steam's polite dominance of the PC games industry appears shakier than ever, seen perhaps most clearly the week Valve announced it was formally creating new rev share tiers that give big sellers a break by cutting its take on big earners. The standard 30% take drops to 25% on all post-September earnings over $10 million and 20% over $50 million. Valve seems to be making a serious play to keep top game makers from taking their work elsewhere in the years ahead. This has never been more viable, now that multiple publishers, including Bethesda, Ubisoft and Electronic Arts, and it comes right as Epic and Discord, are opening up their own online game marketplaces with much better rev share rates. Most importantly, Valve is making this concession to big game makers, even as smaller devs continue to struggle with discoverability problems in a market overflowing with remarkable games. Low-profile or niche games can, it's a leg at last in the mix, especially when Valve is tweaking Steam's recommendation algorithms in ways that drastically affect some devs' earnings. Once upon a time, just getting your game on Steam meant nearly guaranteed sales success. Now, most devs could be forgiven for seeking greener pastures in which to launch their next game. Loot box reward systems have been a thing in games for years. But after the Battlefront imbroglio of 2017, they caught the attention of media outlets outside of games. Fast forward to the end of 2018, and they are now firmly in the sights of gambling regulators around the world, with countries like Belgium and the Netherlands branding them a potentially illegal form of gambling. This has already caused decks like Valve, Square Enix, and NantG to modify or stop selling games in those regions, and it's likely that more devs will be impacted in the new year, as the